Good evening and welcome to the World of Book Reviews. I'm your host, Judy Mario, and tonight we are talking about this wonderful book, Laugh and Get Rich, How to Profit from Humor in Any Business. And the author, Darren LaCroix, is here with us this evening. Welcome, Darren.
Hey, Judy. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. You know, I've attended your workshops and loved them, and I loved your book. And I want you to tell our audience all about this book because it's just fabulous.
Well, thank you. Well, I started off my career in the stand-up comedy world. Although I was horrible and I was not funny at all, the irony, it was because of a business failure. And so I made it this dream that I was going to try stand-up just once. And it was horrible. And I got one tiny little laugh. And I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out. So I dove in. I realized stand-up comedy wasn't where I belonged, but it led me to becoming a professional speaker and an expert. And I kept hearing, you got to write a book, you got to write a book, got to write a book. And I'm like, I'm dyslexic. I don't even like to read. So writing a book was so crazy. But my co-author, Rick Siegel, had invited me to write this book about humor and business. And the only things in my life, if I thought I'm ever going to write a book, the only thing I could do it is something I'm passionate about. And I loved humor and I love business. You know, I went to 4 years of business school. I had my own franchise as a Subway sandwich shop. And then even in college, I was an entrepreneur. So I found these two things and I married them. And ironically, when I wrote it, Judy, I wasn't funny and I wasn't rich. But I interviewed people who were. And I built my own credibility by finding and seeking those people out who were entrepreneurs or CEOs, either small business or huge business, who used humor as part of their plan. It wasn't like humor's over here, business is over here. It was more like Sherwin Greenblatt, who was the president of Bose Corporation, the big stereo speaker company. He was Dr. Bose's first employee. And I worked there as I pursued my dream, and I worked for him, and I loved his philosophy. And he said, look, if we're going to spend 8 hours a day here working, we might as well have fun while we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's the best environment. And so I would like to have fun when I was doing my job. And so when my bosses would see me kind of goofing off or something, I would point to the little quote from the company president that said, we might as well have fun. And so I really sought out all these different people who used humor as part of their business plan in order to release tension. You know, when I started in stand-up comedy, is very different, where I couldn't figure out why I didn't love it. And comedy can be very fun, but I realized that comedy cuts down, humor lifts up. So there's always a victim in comedy. And I'm still a fan of stand-up comedy, but it didn't resonate with me as much as the power of humor to release the tension.
Yes.
And it's just a business strategy that people use to just create a better experience for customers.
And it probably would be good if more businesses would think in that term, because so many times, you know, the employees are just miserable. Isn't that true?
Yeah, they're miserable, they're not happy, and that affects the work. It affects the customer experience.
It does.
So, but it's got to be a conscious decision. Like one of the companies that I interviewed, the gentleman's name was Dan Wolf, and he was the CEO of this company called Cape Airlines, which is the largest non-affiliated regional airline, and they would fly their flights were to and from Cape Cod and the vineyards on the East Coast where I lived. And they had this philosophy, and I still have the mug on my office, and it said MOCA Hagati, which is an acronym, stands for Make Our Customers Happy, Have a Good Time Doing It.
Oh, how cool.
And I just love the philosophy.
Yeah.
So but it's got to start in from the leadership. If it starts from the bottom, you know, then some of the higher leaders, if it's not endorsed from up above, it's never going to work. So that's why I interviewed business owners and CEOs.
Yeah. Because if it's the employees that are having a good time, but the business owners haven't put that into effect, they're like, you guys better get back to work.
Yeah, get back to work, exactly.
Yeah, why are you screwing around? You should be working. You shouldn't be screwing around. There were so many good points in this book. What is your favorite? What was your most important point that you made with the book, do you think?
I think it's realizing that humor and the use of humor, the strategic use of humor, impacts directly the bottom line. And that's why I think the CEOs were so behind it, because they saw that. They saw the value of it, that if we can impact the bottom line, then it makes business sense.
Yes.
It's just not, oh, we're having funny tie day, which, but it's really, how can we release the tension? So, for example, one of the companies that impressed me was this company that they went from like $0 to $6 million in a few years. And the irony, the CEO, his name was Jim Laffey, ironically.
Oh.
And they were called Color for Real Estate. And it was a printing company. And they printed business cards for real estate agents. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of like their specialty market. And I had heard about him, and I called up to set up an interview with him. And when I called, the hold music like shocked me. And it was like themes from when I grew up. It was the not boring hold music. It was television themes from when I grew up, and it was like Gilligan's Island theme. And it just kind of like made you smile.
Yeah.
And it was kind of neat. And I commented to the woman who finally picked up, and I said, "Is that how you always have your hold music?" And she said, "Yeah." She goes, "It's so funny because some people, when we pick up, they say, 'Hang me back, put me back on hold so I can finish listening to that song,' because it's kind of like reminiscent."
Yeah.
And then when I got there to interview Jim for the book, I walked into the waiting room, and I noticed that it was different from any other waiting room I had ever been into. And think about it, waiting room is where there's tension. Mm-hmm. If there's frustration.
Right.
So what this company did is say, okay, where's the tension? How can we relieve it? And walked in, and it's like AstroTurf. And I thought, well, this is kind of different. And I went and sat down, and I noticed that there was like a set of putting, putters on the side. Mm-hmm. And they actually had like a little mini golf course set up right in the waiting room. So if you think about it, a lot of waiting rooms, what do they have? They have Time, Newsweek.
Yes.
No offense to those magazines, but death and destruction, like that's what you're going to read right before you come in and talk to us. Like it affects your mindset. And then I'm sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden a dog runs across the putting green, and I'm like, what's happening? And they said, oh, well, every Friday we have Take Your Dog to Work Day. And, other companies might do something like that, but they have it consistent. They say, well, why should our dogs sit at home by themselves and we're here? And they said they use it for their advantage. They say that if a customer comes in and let's say their print work isn't quite ready yet, they'll say, hey, we're trying to finish up your print work, but do us a favor, take our dog for a walk, and they hand them a leash. And okay, but by the time the person comes back, they're smiling. They just took a dog for a walk.
Wow.
It's just, it's looking at different ways of doing business.
Exactly. Thank you. Hold it right there. We're going to have to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. We'll be right back with Darren LaCroix and talk more about his fabulous book, Laugh and Get Rich.
Thank you for calling Denim Revival.
Hate to say goodbye to your favorite jeans? Well, now you don't have to, because Denim Revival is here for you. Mail us your jeans and our professionals will fix it right up. We offer you all kinds of alteration services, including invisible repairs, let-outs, taperings, and original hemming, or even have your own custom-made jeans. Quoted the best denim repair shop by GQ, Vogue Magazine, and LA Times. Denim Revival, your search for alteration and repair ends here.
Hi there, this is Judy Mario, and this is the World of Book Reviews, and tonight we're talking with Darren LaCroix, who has written Laugh and Get Rich, and it's a fabulous book for anyone who wants to make more money and have better business and more profits. And I just love the story you were just telling us about that company with the dogs and taking the dogs for a walk.
Yeah, it's very different, but it makes such logical sense. But nobody sits back and says, okay, how can we make this fun? It's kind of like the Tom Sawyer concept, where it's like, he's doing the work, he's painting the fence, and he's making it fun, and then his friends want to help him paint the fence.
Yeah.
So he convinces them to paint the fence by making it fun, by leading by example. And that's what I loved, all the different people that I interviewed and their philosophy and how they look at it. And that was a perspective that I thought was refreshing. You know, we know Southwest Airlines is famous for that.
Yes,
but they're
yes.
not the only company out there doing it.
No, that there's an airlines in South Africa that I can't remember the name of it now, but I will never forget the airplane because it had a green arrow pointing up, and on the side of the plane it was painted this side up. And I took a picture of it and brought it home because it was just amazingly funny, and yet at the same time it was quite serious.
Sure.
But people enjoyed that airline because they did funny things like that. Yeah.
And I think you build a customer loyalty, and it's a way of differentiating yourself from other companies. You know, it's so hard to market yourself these days when everything's changing so rapidly. We talked about that before the show, that marketing changes so rapidly. So here's a strategy that if you continue to make it part of your business philosophy, whatever new changes come out, you just look for a new, different way to apply it.
Yes, yes, and the same message. And what's really interesting about your book is that it's also done in a couple of other languages. This one is?
That one's Mandarin.
And this is the same
It's
book.
from Taiwan.
But
in
it's
Taiwan.
done in Mandarin. Isn't that amazing? How did you feel getting your book done in Mandarin?
Well, as a first-time author, just having it published in another language, I was thrilled. Now, I have no idea what it says. I'm assuming that.
And the interesting thing, it opens opposite our
way.
books, doesn't it?
And if you look too, the printing is up and down.
Oh, isn't that
It's
interesting?
vertical rather than horizontal.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
So I have no idea what it says, but I'm hoping it
Oh, I
goes along
love
with it.
I think that's fabulous. And this one, where is this one?
That is Korean.
This is a Korean one. And it's the same book,
Same
Laugh
book.
and Get Rich. And it's evidently done pretty well over there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't even know the numbers, but I was just thrilled again to have it published in another language.
Now the type on this one goes across.
Yeah, that one's horizontal, but I think
horizontal.
they go the opposite direction when they read.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Well, this is fabulous. I mean, you've got to feel fabulous getting your books printed in all these different languages.
It was pretty cool.
That's exciting. I think so. Now, tell me a little bit about you, because I believe I heard that you are the only speaker in the world that has your certified speaking professional designation, and you are a world champion Toastmaster.
Yes, and an accredited speaker.
And an accredited
Yes.
speaker. That's amazing.
Thank you, thank you.
I know how hard it is to become a certified speaking
Because
professional.
you led the way.
Well, because, yeah, I am one, but it's not an easy thing to get. I mean, less than 12% of the speakers in the world hold that designation. And I'm very proud of you that
Well,
you've done
thanks.
that. But I mean,
And for those of you watching, Judy's amazing.
oh, thank you.
Judy is amazing and has spoken all over the world. She's here interviewing us, but we should be interviewing you.
No, I
You
don't
and your artwork.
Thank you. Thank you.
welcome.
We have to take another quick break. Thank you so much. We'll be right back with Darren LaCroix.
Snap-on dentures will change your life. And at Smiles Today Dental, we now offer the lowest price in town. Mini dental implants can stabilize your loose dentures permanently. Call Smiles Today Dental for a free consultation.
Hi, I'm attorney Eric Palacios. If you or a loved one is facing criminal charges, don't go to court alone. Call me at 444-7777. We can get you the best deal and keep you out of jail. Call 444-7777.
Hi, this is Judy Mario, and this is the World of Book Reviews. And thank you for joining us tonight as we are talking with Darren LaCroix. Darren is a world champion Toastmaster. He is also an accredited speaker and a certified speaking professional and an author and a world traveler. It's amazing what all he's done, but we're so glad to have you here, Darren, tonight, talking about your book, Laugh and Get Rich.
Thanks. Thanks. When the story that we had said before the break, Jim Laffey, the CEO for Color for Real Estate, I love this quote by him. He said, "Humor is the most underrated and overlooked value-added service you can provide, and it costs you nothing."
Wow,
That's powerful.
that is powerful.
When we were getting this book done, it took us 4 years to create. And I got together with my co-author, Rick Siegel, who was a mentor to me. And we had this challenge where the woman who was going to be our agent would not get back to us. So we sent her some letters, we sent her some emails, and she wouldn't get back to us, So we thought, okay, here's a perfect reason to use humor to see if we can get her to respond. After all, that's what the book's about.
Yes.
So my co-author wrote this beautiful letter, and we want people to steal the idea and use it. So if you're listening and watching, please type this out, try it out, and it's remarkable. So this is the letter that he wrote. It said, "Dear Rebecca, I hadn't heard from you, so I quickly assumed you hated my book, Laugh and Get Rich. But just when I was ready to jump out the window in sheer desperation, I had a thought. She might be on vacation. And then I said, no, she must be on a selling trip, trying to focus on books she already represents. That sounded better, but I said to myself, Rick, you're rationalizing again. If she really liked the book, she would have been hot to call us, but she didn't, so go ahead and jump." So I did. But I'm on the first floor, and there's a grassy knoll outside my window, so it's impossible to hurt yourself. So now I have a grass-stained pair of pants, and I'm still wondering if you liked or hated the book. So the reason I'm writing you now is we're thinking of moving to the third floor. And if you decide to reject the book, much rather you did it while we're still on the first floor. Look forward to hearing from you, Rick Siegel. And he said, P.S. I hope you like that way of responding. We believe it's part of the laugh and get rich philosophy of way of doing business. If you found it fun and amusing, then you're right for the book. If you didn't, we aren't right for you and each other, but hopefully you liked it.
Oh, that's
She
really...
called us back the next day.
Did she? Yeah.
She did.
Well, that's really cool. I like that so much. It's really wonderful.
So we tried to put, like, we called it the nifty 50. 50 little ideas just like that one that you can just go ahead and apply. Some may apply to some businesses and some the other. Mm-hmm. One little restaurant that I loved that I used to go to is this couple that owned it. And my friend Rita, who owned it, I got to become friends with her because she had this, when you walked in, it's a small little mom and pop store, and she had this little pig that she called Mac the Pig. And he held a chalkboard. And when you walked in, he would have like his thought for the day. Oh. And the pig could say things that most people couldn't because it's a pig. And it's actually one of the humor principles that we teach is giving a voice to some inanimate object. And it's a way of seeing what Mac's up to today. And it was just a way of creating that engagement with the customers.
I like it. I really like it. When you said that, it made me think about a story in South Africa, and it's a long story. I'll try to make it real short here. But it was a customer was being very, very rude to the waitress, and it was a steak that had gone, he'd sent it back a couple of times, and then she brought it back, and he started being really nasty. He was hateful with her, and he's like, this steak is bad, it's really bad, you have to do something about this steak. And she actually reached over and picked the steak up off the plate, slapped it a couple times and said, bad steak, and slammed it back down on the plate. And she said, I think it'll behave now, and she walked away. I have to tell you, I was in stitches. I was absolutely laying on the floor. I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my whole life. And I said to him later, would you go back to that restaurant again? And he said, yes, the waitress made it worth the whole thing.
Nice.
It was so funny.
Nice.
So she saved a really bad situation by doing something hysterical.
And you think of how beautiful it was when it was a tension-filled moment. So again, humor is a release of tension. So wherever that tension is, it's an opportunity. So if you make it a habit and a strategy, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I went to the post office once on where I used to live back in Boston. It was like December 23rd. And I was just waiting in line, and you know I love humor, and I have a humor boot camp where I teach people how to be funnier. And I was waiting at the end of the line. This woman goes up to the man at the post office, and she says, "Will this get there by Christmas?" And he looked at her with a straight face, didn't bat an eyelash, and said, "This Christmas?" I just lost it. I thought it was the funniest thing. I kept going to the end of the line, just waiting for someone else to come up there.
That is too funny. That is really funny. You know my friend Lloyd that I date sometimes and go out with and have been forever. Anyway, we were in the post office. You saying that reminded me. We were in the post office one day, and he offered to pay for my stamps, and I said, "No, this is for my business. I'll pay for it." And the postmaster said something very nice, like, "You know, you've got a really nice girlfriend." Well, Lloyd can't hear. And so he thought the man was saying something about his hat. And he said, "Yeah, this one is really nice, but I've got a nicer one at home." And the postmaster was hysterical. He just thought that was the funniest thing. And he's never forgotten Lloyd. Every time he goes back to the post office now, he loves it. We've got to take a break. I just had to share that with you because it was pretty funny.
That is funny.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll be right back with Darren LaCroix in just a moment.
Love is the essence of beauty, and at Vegas Beauty Skin Center, we love what we do. Fall in love with your skin again. From our laser services to eyebrow threading and facials, everything we do at Vegas Beauty Skin Center is about helping you look your best. Come to Vegas Beauty Skin Center, where every client is number one. Call 702-722-6464. LVAC members receive 20% off all services.
Larry, I'm especially proud of the Westport sofa. It's 100% genuine leather.
100% leather?
Leather everywhere, and it's well constructed.
It feels great. The lumbar cushion is perfect.
And it's only $7.99.
$7.99 for 100% genuine leather? You should be proud.
$7.99, Larry's price.
Which means it's honest, unbeatable, and available to you every day. Only at Walker Furniture.
Hi, this is Judy Mario, and this is the World of Book Reviews. And this evening we're talking with Darren LaCroix. We've been talking with Darren about his book, Laugh and Get Rich, How to Profit from Humor in Any Business. And I think we've learned enough about this book that we're all going to run out and get it right away. Any business person could probably really profit from using this book. But I want to talk to Darren right now about this other book that he's written called Speaker's Edge, Secrets and Strategies for Connecting with Any Audience. Welcome back, Darren.
Thanks,
and let's
Judy.
tell them about this book.
Well, thanks. I was fortunate enough in 2001 to win the World Championship of Public Speaking out of 25,000 contestants. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is in 1992, I bombed miserably at a comedy club. It was horrible. I had no business being on stage. In fact, I show a video clip of it when I give speeches these days to prove how bad I was. And it's enlightening. But what I really try to prove by that is that anyone can learn it. Anyone can learn anything, whether it's humor, whether it's speaking, whether it's marketing, presentation skills. It's just really something that can be learned. But anything can be learned if you're willing to make some mistakes. And most importantly, to get your coaches and get your guides. I'm sure you had mentors in your speaking life. We all need them. So what I did is I got together with a group of other mentors and coaches, the other world champions, and then Patricia Fripp, who was somebody who has changed my business and my personal life. She's amazing. She just made me a better person. And we kind of put together our best lessons of what we've learned the hard way, because all of us had a different challenge. Me, I wasn't funny. I had severe stage fright. Both Craig and Ed Tate, they had stuttering problems. Nobody ever thought that they would be a speaker, never mind a world champion.
Yes.
So we share our stories and our strategies on how to connect. And like one of the ones that I think is really crucial is connecting with yourself first before you go up on stage. You know, we have that little monkey mind before, 5 minutes before we go up, and it freaks us out. And we realize that skill set without mindset will leave your audience upset.
Oh.
So having the skills and having a good speech is one thing, but having the mindset when you take the stage changes everything. You know, the audience doesn't want you perfect. They want you present.
Yes.
And I think that's why TED Talks are so successful these days. They're not a speech, a formal speech, an orator. They're a talk. Here's me sharing my ideas. And so we try to teach the techniques in order to not only get your point across, but first connect with your audience.
That is so important. And that's one of the things I learned from Patricia, who is one of the authors in this book, was to connect with the audience before you ever went on stage. When I
Amen.
first started out in speaking, she was one of my mentors, and she was like, you go in that room before you start and you connect with those people.
Yeah, shake as many hands as you can. And what's amazing too with that principle that I learned from her as well is if there's 1,000 people in the meeting room and you're standing there shaking hands, even though you'll never shake hands with all of them, everyone else notices your intention. And I think what the audience wants from us is the authenticity and the intention. They don't care if we're perfect, but if our intention is self-motivated, if it's all about us, they can sense that,
Yes.
and they don't like that at
Yes.
all. So it's kind of like, did you see the movie Avatar?
No, I didn't.
So in Avatar, it's this beautiful fantasy world, and there's this, the native Na'vi have this banshee. So it's this big pterodactyl type animal that they connect with and they fly with. So they get on them and ride them like a horse, but they fly through the air. But what I loved in the principle of the movie was that the banshee chooses the rider. And they have to connect, and they have this tentacle nerve endings that they connect with them, so they fly as one. But it's not the rider chooses the banshee, it's the banshee chooses the rider. And I think that's just like us. We have to be the person that the audience chooses to connect with.
Yes, yes.
And that's where it comes from, starting with yourself first.
I love that. I really love that, because I've always felt that the important thing was the message for the audience. It was the audience that we should care about, not us. I mean, I want to look good and I want to present well and I want to dress up but I want them to walk away with something that they can say, this is making a difference in my life. And I know that about you as well. Would you tell our audience how they can get copies of your books and how they can contact you if they'd like to book you for something?
Thanks. Well, you can just go to DarrenLacroix.com, DarrenLacroix.com, and find out whatever you want to know, and probably more than you care to know.
Well, I think it's important that the audience knows that you also send out some really great motivational messages for people who are a part of your audiences and people who contact you. And I get those messages all the time, and I love them.
Oh, thanks.
And so that's really, really important. Thank you, Darren, for being here tonight. We really, really appreciated having you here, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope you'll come back.
Well, it was my pleasure. Can I give you a hug?
Not quite yet.
Not yet.
You can in a minute. Thank you for joining us tonight. I've had a wonderful time with Darren, and I'm sure you have too. And we look forward to having you back with us here at the World of Book Reviews.